Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today on Carnivore Muscle, I'm here today with the lovely Helen Taylor, the functional wellness expert, founder of House of Evexia and the wellness concierge with expertise in genomic and regenerative medicine. So I had the lovely pleasure of meeting her very recently, I'd say a few months back actually, in the UK. We went to a carnivore-based sort of conference talk thing, Public Health Collaboration UK, I think it's called. Anyway, that was an absolutely brilliant experience. We got chatting about peptides, supplements, and all the other stuff. So this talk's going to be all about that. So you can expect to learn lots about different peptides, hormones, interplay of the body, a bit about epigenetics, perhaps biohacking, all the pillars that make a successful carnivore bodybuilder or person trying to improve their body composition. Anyway, how's it going, Helen? What's going on?
Yeah, good. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, the pleasure's mine for sure. So let's talk about biohacking then. So what is it and what are some of the pillars that underpin what it does and how you apply it to your life?
Okay, so biohacking really is taking responsibility for your own biology, and how you as a person react to various different things. So by hacking, in some respects, like you've got your glasses on, you've got your red light on, these all things that the body really wants to have, as opposed to all the blue light that we're getting, which can disrupt all of our circadian rhythm and all those various different things. I could go on, it's endless because it's such a specialized thing for each individual person. What might suit one might not suit another, but we're talking ice baths, glasses, red light therapy, oxygen therapy, and then we can get further into it by talking peptides or bioregulators and the list goes on, live blood analysis, it's just ozone therapy, where do you stop?
Sure, yeah. I mean, these are all things we sort of use to modulate recovery and just improve our well-being in general. Now, in your experience, I understand there's going to be mechanistic studies and science, then also the anecdotal side of it. So I'm asking, particularly in your experience here, what have you found to be most effective with people in terms of biohacking? So is there an order of which you find, okay, this is the most important thing, for example, a carnivore diet, or is it the light exposure, getting the blue light emit as much as possible with plenty of red light throughout the day? What is your goal, basically?
I think everybody's different because everybody's got a different budget, and that's what's key. And I think that's what's good about this, is the fact that it can fit your budget. So if you want to do things without buying stuff, then obviously being out in sunlight, watching sunrise, watching sunset, having 8 hours sleep, hydrating with reverse osmosis water ideally, keeping away from plastics, eating whole foods, it is key, moving away from and more towards an ancestral kind of diet. But then obviously it really varies on what I'm doing, if I'm really honest, as to what I'm up against with my clients, as to what they need. So oxygen therapy can be really beneficial, but then again, red light therapy can be really beneficial, as can cold therapy. Cold therapy I tend to steer clear of. I just do it in the shower first thing in the morning, but that's about it. Plunging, not for me. But everybody's different, right?
Yeah, for sure. I can completely get behind that. I mean, I have some guys I work with that are doing all the biohacks, and yeah, they're a bit healthier for it. They feel a bit better. Is it worth it for them? Yeah. Now for someone else, like you said, a businessman who's traveling all day, struggling to get meals in, struggling to emit blue light, well, yeah, they're going to probably find taking a tablet much easier than doing anything else. These things do take time.
Absolutely. But also being able to just regulate your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system can be huge. So breath work on the train, if you are busy all the time, that can be mind-blowing and so good for you.
For sure. It's not always about taking something, putting something in your body. It's sometimes the stuff, the inside, the active recovery, you might call it. So I got a new smartwatch basically, but what I can do now is I can track my sleep. I'm not big on wearables, smart tech in that kind of sense, but I want to see where I'm at that point in time. find a trend. What's the problem? How do I fix it? So for example, my REM sleep is a third of what it should be, based on averages apparently. So okay, I need to investigate myself now as a biohacker, someone, like yourself, trying to just live better. What do I need to do to change that? What do I need to do to get better REM and deep sleep? And also as well, on these smartwatch things, you can get like a breath counter. So before my meals now, what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, chuck the thing on. I've cooked my dinner, sat there, and it's I don't know, 5-minute breath work, and it will just vibrate. Okay, breathe in, vibrate again, breathe out, so on and so forth. So all these things are completely possible, and it's not like you have to spend a lot of money to apply a lot of these things. And I think a lot of the sort of the active things that you choose to do yourself for yourself, the free stuff is the stuff that gives the most benefit, I found. Check out my site at compositionconsultant.com, where your journey to peak performance and optimal health begins. With a degree in human nutrition and over 15 years of training experience, I've guided more than 400 carnivores to not just meet, but exceed their physique and performance goals. Through personalised consultations, comprehensive ebooks and dedicated coaching, I'm here to ensure your success. Join the ranks of those who have transformed their lives. It's time to align your physique goals with positive health outcomes. Visit compositionconsultant.com today and take the first step towards the best version of you. So,
yeah, definitely, because you can then jump into a realm which is really, well, it's never ending, isn't it? It is just a black hole, and it's a bit like rabbit in headlights, because you'll go one way and then you go, oh no, this is the latest thing. Oh no, you've got to go over here. But actually, by doing that, you're disrupting yourself, and people don't realize that they're doing that. They're just following the trend, and FOMO kicks in. But actually, FOMO's so far away from what biohacking actually is, or looking after your body. It's about understanding you, knowing what works for you, and it doesn't matter what your best mate's doing and what's worked for them, because genetically they're so different. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm of the same standpoint. For example, my brother, he's about 6 years older than me. He's got a different life experience and day-to-day way of life than I have completely. He stares at screens all day. He isn't impacted by it. Now, if I do that, I'm very impacted by it. My sleep's way off, pain's off, my whole system, my bodily system, just not well regulated. So, for example, right now I've got like blue blocking thing on my screen, wearing the blue blocking glasses. I'll use the red light therapy panel after the gym. Just came back from the gym, also left it on. But yeah, these are just some of the things I integrate as part of my routine. So when I'm actually just sat there after the gym, doing my breath work, okay, I'm adding in the red light therapy. So 2 birds, 1 stone, 20 minutes, done. Job's a good one. So yeah, I mean, this is such an interesting talk. I mean, I'd like to talk a bit now about peptides. So we'll discuss the background stuff, but now, so what's their role in health and performance? Do you find any of particular value?
Well, yes. The various ones have various effects, and I think they have an absolute value because they are representative of what, as we get older, things degrade. So subsequently being able to put those peptides back in to aid in recovery or just overall feeling, sleep, whether you want to bulk up, slim down, is great. I mean, fundamentally, I don't know how technical you want me to be, but they're short chain amino acids. They are between 5 and 50 little circles in length. We'll go through some bioregulators later, which are even smaller. And basically different chains made up in different lengths create different peptides, which your body is going to recognize. Some are growth hormones, some aren't. And yeah, they can be mixed. I personally prefer them mixed and blended. Some people like to just have them individually, but as a sort of student from a few years ago from Dr. Carnivore, I'm a big fan of blended peptides.
I see. Yeah, I'm guessing there's some kind of synergistic, symbiotic effect when using, for example, when we start speaking CJC with DAC, with Hexarelin, I think you mentioned. So
Yeah.
how would that work, and what are the benefits of that sort of thing for recovery or health?
So when you've got things like those, I've written it down. Bear with me 2 seconds. My memory's not as good as it used to be. But
I'm the same.
fundamentally, it's the recovery and the rebuild of the muscle that gives it its additionals. You've caught me on the hop there because I hadn't got that page open.
I think it proliferates IGF-1 expression.
That's right. Yes,
you
it
get a
does.
greater degree of splicing, so therefore you get more satellite cells to create more muscle fiber, something like that.
Yeah. Here we go. So hexarelin it improves metabolism and muscle building, but also improves sleep quality and anti-aging, mental health, and bone health. So it's quite a good one to mix with CJC because they're quite complementary of each other. Helps with mood as well.
Interesting.
But the difficulty with hexarelin is the availability of it now. I'm not sure if that. I'm pretty sure actually that's one of the ones that got knocked off.
Yeah, I think a lot of these peptides and things, they're generally speaking, they're meant to be in a more accessible way to get it through the black market of a growth hormone. So the idea, I'm guessing, is okay, we've got growth hormone, we've taken a few bits of amino acids off. They're either shorter or longer acting, and that yields this expression on the body in terms of IGF-1, growth hormone, cortisol. No, it's obviously great at saying okay, these sort of things are great for recovery, but health and sleep and things like that. But are there side effects? Are there dosage warnings? Is there any kind of thing we need to be concerned about?
Yeah, you do. The hexarelin can increase CRH. So the hormone and cortisol and prolactin. So you've got to be really careful with your dosing on that. But as I say, I'm not sure that. I don't think you can get that anymore. You tend to now put ipamorelin with KISS peptide, which is quite. That's kind of the one that I get in the UK, and that one is actually legal. So the sources that I get mine from are actually from a European pharmacy. So as a result, they're MHRA compliant and meet all the guidelines. So, and the ones I use are compounded, so they've got various different combinations together. Yes, there are the ones that you can get, which are, as you alluded to, the black market. But again, because I've not visited their labs, that's just on me. I'm just a bit of a geek from that perspective. If I knew what their labs were like, then maybe I'd have a different perspective. But you can't trust everything these days, can you?
That's right. Yeah, I've been made aware recently. Some manufacturers actually make overage with their products. So there is, over time, a product might decay, particularly if it's in a liquid format. So you might, for example, get a batch test of a kilo drum of NAD and a whatever amount, 10 liters of liquid or whatever, water, and it'll say this is in this, but the time it's got to you from some warehouse in China, okay, it's degraded 20%, then it's also been cut with something you don't know. So I people always say to me, we have batch analysis, certificate analysis, all that sort of thing, HPLC testing. I say, do you have that of a recent batch or this current batch that you're trying to sell me, this product in this vial, in this bottle, as it's being sold to me right now? If not, it doesn't mean much. It's just a label. It just says, okay, someone called Stephen from London or Warwick bought a drum from China and it tested as this. Okay, great. It doesn't say much.
That's kind of going back to the NAD. I think that's the key with all of these things, is knowing the source. If you know the source, or you go through maybe someone like yourself or myself, then we've already done our due diligence, so we know what they're like. But NAD and lots of people allude to this, including Carnivore. You've got to get your combinations right on that. Otherwise, even the body won't recognize it as NAD.
That's interesting. So how does that come about then? So it's not as simple as, okay, I've been told to have, 100 milligrams of injectable NAD 3 times per week. I understand there's not an exact dosage or protocol, but how would someone go about finding that dosage? And what are some of the key benefits to that specific, product, I guess?
The best way with NAD, and it does change. It's changing, I think, the more people are using it, to be fair. It used to be that you would... so the most expensive way of doing NAD is by drip. I've had drips. I personally, not good for me. Take about 3.5, 4 hours, and I am just like, there's nothing good about this. I'm better injecting into my stomach. But from a dosage perspective, if you inject into the stomach as opposed to an IV, and I have it combined with MOTS-C, for example, then you can just cycle it for 3 months on, and then you probably wouldn't do it again for another 6 months or a year. But specifics as to milligrams, I can come back to you on that. I haven't got that data to hand.
Sure, yeah. I mean, from what it's explained to me so far, I mean, this is something I'm looking into more at the moment. Obviously, I've done my due diligence to know the safety, the efficacious dose, things like that. But there's more to it. There's always someone that knows a lot more than you about these things. It's like, well, let's ask these people. So I asked Dr. Abs, and he said, okay, you have this NADH and I think NAD ratio, something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
NADH plus, yeah. So you're talking about the Krebs cycle. Yeah.
Yes. So he's saying if you put too much in one bucket, i.e. NAD plus, and it goes right up, it'll take away from the other bucket and people get reactions from that. Does that sound accurate to you? I mean, I don't know. I don't understand. I mean,
again, it depends on someone's overall Krebs cycle. It depends on have you got enough CoQ10 to be able to mechanistically move everything along in the right way. You've got about six or seven sort of things that you would need, and NAD probably sits at the second pillar, and then you've got your CoQ10, then you've got your methylene blue, and you've got all of your different pillars that it works around. Now, depending on the overall way that your Krebs cycle is working, so if you've done a test to see how that's doing, so I know organic acid tests, for example, will tell you if there's anything inhibiting that cycle overall.
I see. So how do people go about this test? Because I've read a bit about it, and it seems quite an obscure thing to go for. It's not something you just go down to GP to get, No,
you wouldn't get it from your GP. They would probably look at you, gone out, and what's that? I can't give you a drug for that. So no, we don't do it. Usually, I send my tests to America. I don't use any labs for much over here. Because I know in the States they've been doing this for a lot longer. So I use a gold standard place in the States. It's a urine test, and it comes back and it shows you the cycle, and it will show you where you're inhibited, if at all, and what's inhibiting that.
Excellent. This is something I need to look into. I
can send you some information on it. No problem at all.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that for sure. Yes, we kind of covered a bit about peptides, so the growth hormone releasing peptides, the kisspeptin, the NAD. You alluded a little bit towards MOTCS or MOTS-C.
MOTS-C, my favorite.
Yes, I actually used this with your recommendation about a week or two after we spoke about it last. And I found it did something. I felt warm. So it tells me mitochondria are firing up and doing stuff. So what's been your experience, and what do you think happened there?
Oh, I love it. From my perspective, I'm a woman in my late 40s. So hysterectomy and all that sort of shizzle going on. And for me, the ability, when I combine it with NAD, it has a great working with my metabolism, so it just slims me down perfectly, and I feel great. I feel so energized on it as well, and it's got that. It is really good for your metabolism, and that alongside SS31, the two of them together. I mean, I know there's a big thing about GLP-1s, and we're not going to get into that, but for me, I feel that MOTS-Cs and SS31s are better for weight loss and safer.
Introducing Beef Up Carnivore Bodybuilding Bible. The ultimate guide for men and women to lose fat and build muscle. And the best part, it's only $12. Don't miss out on the most detailed resource available. Get a copy now at compositionconsultant.com.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I'm guessing if you're going to be using probably a lower dose with the SS31, it means you stave off the potential side effects, but you're working at different angles to achieve a certain benefit, I guess. Now, it's quite interesting we're talking about this because I was watching a podcast recently by someone called Vigorous Steve. You may have heard of him. You may have not. He's quite a character. He's an American. No, sorry. I think he lives in America or Japan or I don't know, whatever. He's a very interesting guy, very smart guy. He's an absolute biohacker. You know, when he makes a video, he's like, "This is my current off-season stack to build my arms or whatever it is." And you look for it, and you're like, "There's like 70 different things on the screen." It'll be, "This is my hormone thing. This is my ancillary thing. It's my supplement thing, peptide thing, amino acid thing, diet thing." You know, he has a whole system, and there's 10, 15 products in each system. So we're looking at everything here across the board. And he's basically what he's found is himself and a couple of other guys have been using a lot of the combinations like you just said and getting the same fat burning benefit without using the intense, heavy, stimulatory, products like clenbuterol, albuterol, ephedrine, amphetamine, all these sort of things which bodybuilders do tend to use quite often. So they're not feeling all that jittery, fired up feeling, but their body's just working at background level, sleeping better. Yeah. So, I mean, is that the main combination you find effective to the MOTS-c and the NAD plus?
Yeah, for me, yes. Yeah. I know other people that have used it or have put them on it. They've said the same thing. So, but it isn't something that I would go from cold. I would be possibly starting you on maybe a BPC 157, TB 500, GHK copper, to see how you react generally to, well, number one, you've got to inject yourself. So if you don't like injecting yourself, then we've got to look at an alternative way of getting them in. But just to start people off, see how they react to things, and then you can step up.
I see. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm doing probably a jab a day at the moment. Very interesting experience.
Do you cycle on like 3 months, or do you just do them for a short period of time and then leave them?
I tend to do short blocks, so it might be like 2 vials of NAD or something like that. Then I'll do maybe, it might last 2 to 3 weeks. Then sometimes I'll just leave some as just spill over that I've got a few milliliters left, and I'll just have that. I think I'll save it for a rainy day. Might give me a bit of a pep up on a bad day, but that's just been how I've used it.
Yeah, I think what's important to note here is that this is just to give your body a boost. So the idea isn't to be on them full time. If you go on them full time or you cycle them too long, your body gets lazy and goes, don't need to do it anymore. So you have got to be quite mindful of cycling and remembering when you last used something and for how long. Which is why I only do MOTS-c and NAD for 3 months and then back off for 12 months. Because your body has to learn.
That makes sense. Yeah. So these things are there to steer the body in the direction it should be going, or towards your goals, whatever that might be. Same with vitamins. People are like, oh, I'm on a multivitamin. I'm like, look, you could just eat a better diet 365 days of the year, so you wouldn't have to take that. But then I do appreciate, sometimes these things do patch things up, and I've seen people on a carnivore diet with seemingly low or average B12 levels. Iron is a bit low, and I'm like, okay. And they've come and said to me, I've taken the iron supplement and it's helped. Okay, great. But it's not a long-term solution because everything has some kind of side effect. It has some processing,
Yeah, definitely. And I've been on bioidentical hormones, for example, and I've had to come off my estrogen. Now, the only thing I can put it down to is the fact that I'd been getting my meat from a butcher that I thought was regenerative, and it isn't. And so the only connection I can make to my increase in hormones, because I've got no ovaries, so the only other way potentially I'm going to get any estrogen is from my adrenals, right? And what I've been rubbing in. So the fact that my levels were so high, I've had to stop getting my meat from that farmer. And this is what people don't realize. Do you know what I mean? It's so, yeah.
It's the whole in and out thing. People always see it as okay, this thing's going in. Okay, these things also have an out. They say, beef and lamb, root fatty meat and lamb. Okay, great, you can do that forever. Well, I've not met many people that can. So apparently not. And that is obviously a nutrient-dense diet. But there are some people out there that just don't get the same benefit, and they benefit from adding fish. Myself, most of the year, I eat fish every day, and at the moment, probably eating it about twice a day minimum. I'm talking fatty fish, and I feel better on it. I've had my omega-3 to 6 sort of index tested and things like that, and it seems to give a benefit to me anyway. But I kind of want to ask a bit. Yeah.
Just out of interest, have you done a genetic
test? Yeah, I've done a genetic test. So my detox pathways are quite poor, which makes total sense. My ability to gain muscle was quite high, which makes sense. My fat loss was average, which kind of makes sense. I mean, I don't have to die anymore to lose body fat. I don't have to do 2 hours of cardio a day, but at the same time, it does require conscious effort. It doesn't drop off me, so to speak. So yeah,
you'll have to send me the raw data and I'll translate it.
Yeah, it'd be helpful. Yeah, the thing is, guys, if you're listening to this, when you have these tests, it's great having the numbers to look at, but understanding how it all pieces together is another side to it. And so it might be that, okay, I've got poor detox pathways, but there's a genetic SMP somewhere else, which means I can do all the things that I need to do that involve detox pathways better. So it's a very bizarre thing to look at and way beyond my scope of expertise, but I'll definitely be approaching and would recommend someone approach Helen for this sort of advice for sure.
Yeah, I'm happy to help. I love looking at figures and numbers. I'm a bit, love it.
I'm the same. I track way too much each day. It's a bit bizarre. But, there's 2 more products I wanted to talk about. So one of them was injectable glutathione, and the other one, I believe, was injectable carnitine. And if you found those effective or looked at them at all?
I have used injectable glutathione. In what context were you thinking?
Mostly for detox, liver health, kidney health, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. I think from a glutathione perspective, it's better to have it sublingually. So put it under your tongue, hold on to it for 30 seconds or a minute, because that's far more absorbable for longer than it is IVing it. Because you're not going to have an IV every day, right? Whereas you can give yourself glutathione sublingually daily, and you could do that for a month, 2 months, and that would be a lot more effective, in my opinion.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. I've looked at the mechanism of action is quite short in duration, by the sounds of it, for the injectable. So I can see why someone would have to use a liposomal glutathione under the tongue sort of thing, something like that. Where if they're a die-hard fan of injecting themselves every day, the glutathione would probably be quite efficacious.
If you're doing glutathione alongside, your NAD and whatever else you want to do, you've got to remember that the load that you're putting on the body, just because you're putting all this stuff in, the body's like, whoa, what are you doing? Hang on a minute, bear with, I'm a bit busy. And it might just flush it all out and go, I haven't got time for that today, waste. So
for sure, yeah.
You've got to be really mindful of being kind to your body. And, if you threw a load of stuff at yourself, you know how that feels. So how does your body feel if you do the same to it?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's sometimes hard for people to recognize side effects or interactions in the body. One example I can think of is the carnitine. So I was using at one point ALCAR, so acetyl L-carnitine, with it's quite high dose each day. I think it might have been 4 grams, something like that. Then I was also doing injectable carnitine at the same time. Little did I know, you obviously get diminishing returns after a certain point. Then you also get a very foul-smelling urine, which was noted about a week in. Then also didn't experience more benefit. And I thought, okay, up it to 6 grams. No benefit. Then I thought, well, I'm getting fed up of smelly urine, but I'm still training well. My performance is good in the gym. So let's take these things out. Let's reduce these things. So I got rid of the the oral capsules and just do injectable carnitine pre-workout now. So I'm doing about 500 milligrams, pretty standardized dose. Some people go a lot higher, but the problem is the injection volume, which kind of gets to your point about saying, you know, it's sometimes too much on the body. Now, if you're doing some people are doing 2 grams of injectable carnitine per session, you know, it's 4 milliliters to jab in your body. Subcutaneous, guys, it's not pleasant. So I wouldn't do it. So I do most of mine actually intramuscular, but generally speaking, I'm doing about 0.5 ml on each body part. So I find that's about as much as I can take in before it starts to get sore, stingy. So yeah,
You've
I
just
think
got to be really careful, I think, and just, you know, I don't know, from a genetic standpoint, I'd be able to tell if I saw your raw data whether actually that's doing you any good or not.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of injecting it if your body's like, don't even know what that is?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. The body will flush away things it doesn't need. Methylene blue is one that comes to mind as well. So have you experimented that at all? What do you think?
Yeah, I quite like methylene blue. I like some, you know, different nootropics, anything that can give you an ultimate buzz, or, you know, if you're going to go on a long flight, methylene blue every single time, protect yourself from what's around you. I think there's no 100% studies on how effective this can be, but then you could say that about absolutely everything. And I go back to my point that it's going to work better for some than it will for others. How about you?
Yeah.
Have you tried it?
I've been dabbling in it recently. If I'm honest, I tried it for about 2 days a few months back. Had the bottle, thought this is annoying. It tastes horrible. My mouth's blue. It turns out you have to dilute it. So dilute your methylene blue, guys. I didn't realize this. I was walking around with a blue mouth for about 2 days. Yeah, it's very pungent. So for anyone else listening right now that's wondering about like dosage, I found you do have to find your own dose. I know people that do 2.5, 5 milligrams per day. I know people that do 100 milligrams per day.
Wow.
And on opposite ends of the spectrum, you might have thought that person with 100 was diseased to hell, but no, it's actually the other way around. And the diseased person was doing the lower dose. So it's quite interesting. But yeah, for in terms of dilution,
with that,
your weed does go green. I found my limit's about 25 milligrams. And that's when my weed starts to go green. So I think, like you said, it's something to boost you along and use in times of despair and absolute distress. But it's not something to chase up, you know.
No, I've done IV. That I think I did that with Carnivore actually last year. I didn't. He just stacked me full of everything. IV, methylene blue, and then I had some ozone as well at the same time, and I felt amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been quite fortunate to know or be good friends with a gentleman that does the HBOT, so the hyperbaric oxygen therapy chamber. Have you found that much use? I found it useful in very specific circumstances.
Yes, I think I used to have a chamber when I had my clinic. Obviously, I don't have a clinic now, but I think you're right in specific circumstances. So if you're looking to heal, or if you're having an attack, or you just got quite a bit of brain fog, if you don't want to take any tablets, then hyperbaric is your alternative. But then if the difficulty you have with that is if your ears are off, then the alternative probably is just sauna, red light sauna, or something along those lines.
Sure, yeah. I found it really useful for days when I, one, didn't get any sleep, or two, had an infection of some kind, like a bit of a runny nose, something like that. That's when I found it really, really good. There's obviously limitations. Sitting in a chamber for an hour or whatever period of time, your head might hurt a bit because your ears will pop. So you feel like a bursting sort of sensation. So that can be quite uncomfortable for some people.
Aeroplane, effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I found. But yeah, I found it useful, but not something I put on my daily protocol list. You know, just the investment and time, the cost. You know,
that's one of the things, isn't it, about all of this? Generally, is the time it takes, because some of them are quite time consuming, and a lot of people just don't have that time, which is unfortunate because our bodies aren't used to being on the go button all the time. That's not what we were here to do in the first place. You know what I mean? So, but for those people who are time poor, I would just breath work every time. As a result,
Sure,
get
yeah.
the oxygen in, deep breathe, use those lungs.
Yeah, it's the free stuff for sure. I just wanted to mention, actually, back on the topic of glutathione, I used that and I got my blood EGFR marker from 54 to 92 in about 4 to 6 months, something like that. So that was pretty wild. And this is coming from a standpoint where I was already following a carnivore diet, was already doing all the anti-inflammatory herbs and amino acids and vitamins, everything you think of. I tried the lot. So after years of having, lower EGFR levels, that was the only thing, the intervention that seemed to clear it up. So, my point now is when do I drop it out, basically?
Well, let's do your organic acid test. Let's see what's going on with your Krebs cycle. Let's see why you're not producing enough glutathione in the first place, and you need the top up. There's a root cause there, isn't there? So if we can find the why, then we can fix it. And you can, there's nothing wrong with you staying on it, but maybe try it in a different form.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a question at the end, more to do with like a summarization of your biohacks, what you put in order. So, for example, you might say, I'm Helen and I won't get out of bed to do my day unless I am able to do this. So I'll ask you that in a second. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask about bioregulators and longevity. What are they? I've not heard of, I know the term, but I've not really heard it in application before, which is quite interesting. So
peptide bioregulators are more specific to organs. So your heart, your kidneys, your lungs, your blood vessels, your brain, your bladder, that side of things. So what they do is they're even smaller amino acids. So they're from 1 to 4. They're tiny. And when you take them, they know exactly where to go. They go straight to the organ that they've been blended for specifically. They actually originate, Dr. Kavinson from Russia. He created them. It's a really interesting story, but I won't go into it right now. But ultimately, he's got quite significant amount of studies that show you can take these protocols and you can repair organs from to a point, and you can also repair telomere length with that. So you could do a 12-month protocol on bioregulators. I'm just going to caveat this first, that your bloods need to be in a perfect position to be able to then easily say, we could reverse your biological age and increase your telomere length to do that. So if I've got somebody who's got a weak bladder, for example, I will put them on an intensive program to help heal their bladder, but I'll also be looking at their pineal gland, their thymus, for example, their blood vessels, to incorporate all of that to heal.
I see. So if someone had, for example, this would be applicable to a lot of people, so I'm going to ask this specific example, but chronic fatigue, or ME, anything like that, anything along the energy sort of aspect of things. So how might someone apply bioregulators towards this?
I think I would be looking to improve your blood, your vessels overall. You'd be looking to want to improve your thymus. You'd be looking to want to improve your pineal gland, as I say. Those are your kind of without fail. Heal those first. The chronic fatigue, then I would be, if you want to go further afield, then I'd be looking at doing a live blood analysis to see what's actually going on with the blood there and then to be able to repair that.
I see. So a live blood analysis, what would that entail? And when someone's looking at it, how do you interpret it,
Because I've got a microscope. So I would literally, you do a little prick of blood onto the microscope. I've got a program that brings up the cells there and then and watches them move. And so you can see if you've got oxalates in there, white blood cells, your bacterial infection, if you've got any roulet where the red blood cells will stick together, so it was showing toxicity. So it's quite easy to see what's causing that chronic fatigue or the ME.
Interesting. Has there only been a situation where you've done that for yourself or someone else and been quite surprised at the results?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought there would be.
yeah, because I'm like, that wasn't what I expected. But it's a really good way to give me an understanding of the history that somebody is telling me. To try and understand there and then at that time point without having to go too deep into testing, for me to see there and then what's happening.
I see. That makes sense. Yeah. So, can you give me an example of a bioregulator?
Different names of they're called. So there's different ones. I think it's called Viridian, Timelin. There's some different ones. You've thrown me off. Cortexin. That's one. That's a brain one.
I've heard of those.
Yeah. So you get them. I'm not sure if they're available. I'm sure you can get them from.
You can get them from one company. Yeah. I've seen those advertised, but I didn't know what they were. I just thought, okay, Google. When you Google these things, guys, you just see a Wikipedia page that'll say this study on mice did this for this thing, and it's like, what about me? What does it do for me? There'll be people selling it to you. Yeah. So.
I think the great thing about them is that you can't cause harm with them. However, there are protocols which. So if you know what you're talking about, me, for example, or other people who within bioregulators, we know the protocols and we know the stacking. Like I said about stacking with peptides, you can stack with bioregulators, and there are ones that you would stay on throughout 12 months, for example. There are others that you would just do specifically for 3-month stacks.
I see. That's interesting. I need to look more into these, I think. Yeah, definitely.
I can happily talk to you offline.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at those. I think it's a new one to me. When I spend all day looking at supplements and diet plans and training, but it's like there's something I've not seen before. What is this?
Oh wow, you've not heard of them at all?
Yeah, not heard of them at all. No.
There's something to look at for sure.
That'd be interesting. Yeah. So our next kind of question is about the carnivore diet. So obviously, a lot of people that watch my channel are probably carnivores, I'd guess. My channel's called Carnivore Muscle, hopefully. I don't know. So how did you get into it? When did you get into it? And what have you found so far?
So I started beginning of the year, end of last year. For me, it's been eye-opening, completely changed my life and my view on what they deem to be normal food. I can't really look at any other food and see it as that, really. It doesn't make any sense to me anymore. I feel quite liberated in knowing that what I'm eating is actually doing some good for my body as opposed to just killing it slowly. So I think I've had some difficult moments, obviously getting my fats in alignment. I think probably when I met you, I was struggling at that point. I've also gone through the hair loss stage, which is perfectly normal. And now my hair's thicker than ever. So I think your body goes through this transition, doesn't it? And I think it probably does take about a good 12 months for it to happen. But no, it certainly got me through doing my master's. It's just been brilliant for me. My brain is so clear, which, 2 years ago, if you'd asked me if I was going to do that, I feel like no chance. Can't remember a thing. So,
that was exactly my experience. I found as time goes on, you kind of mount up more and more hacks, more and more tools that you can engage with, and you find, okay, well, I don't tolerate this meat from this supermarket. Then you'll start shopping around. You just refine, and it's very much like people that are long-term carnivores. I think very much like bodybuilders in a way, because they're trying to run the experiment to get a certain outcome. But the outcome is so different. People, a carnivore diet isn't like a fat loss diet. They say it's a side effect of eating a proper diet. But, a lot of people that I speak to are like, oh, I've got great brain fog. I've got arthritis, very common. Digestive issues, very, very common. and extremely common. They tend to be vegans or ex-vegans as well. So it tells me it seems to be very specific personality types, but they do get a very specific benefit, which I find just across the board. So
yeah, definitely. I think what's important is to fix any issues first, maybe keto first, and move into carnivore. That's what I've found. But some people just choose to go straight into carnivore, which has its risks, but obviously eventually your body will work it through. Yeah,
sure.
It goes back to me saying at the beginning or earlier on, you just got to be careful the trauma that you put your body under.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I like you said about the hair loss thing. I do notice a lot of women have that experience. And like you said, the hair goes through roughly 6 week growth cycles. You're going to expect at some point, okay, a 4 week gut microbiome dysregulation. Your body's under stress. Okay, I'm not sure what to do right now. Let's transition slowly. Get your body from A to B, and that's the best way to go about it. So yeah, I'm completely on board. I think I don't know, vegan, Western diet to paleo to keto to carnivore. That's like an ideal situation because not many of us are born carnivore dieters. So it's quite funny to say, but
that is really weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Considering that's all we've ever, that's what we've evolved from.
Yeah, it's funny. We shouldn't be eating 10 different foods one day. I mean, I eat probably 5. And I find most people tend to benefit like long term doing about 3 to 5 foods per day. It's quite interesting. But what's your approach towards your diet? And obviously, it's so specific based on you, what you enjoy, how much you need to eat, all this sort of stuff. But run me through a day of what you do.
So today I've had eggs. I've had 25% fat, full fat mince, and then I'll eat next when I'm hungry. That's the difference I find, is that I'm not in this breakfast, lunch, and dinner thing. I'm just in this, I'm hungry now, so I'm going to eat, which might be a steak. It might be beef. It might be lamb. It might be bone broth. Replace my tea with bone broth. So, I'm constantly sort of getting a hit. It just really, really varies for me. But generally only 2 meals, sometimes 1 meal. It just depends. But I definitely don't eat after 6 o'clock at night.
That's good. Yeah, we've all got to find our limitations and our bracket, that fine spot. For example, you're like me. Yeah, eating late, close to bedtime is not a great idea. Now, when I was on a carb diet, eating 1,000 grams of carbs a day and God knows what else, mostly from Haribo and rice pudding, I did find that I'd have to eat close to bedtime because otherwise my blood sugar was so dysregulated. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, like starving if I gave it too long before bed. It's like my body was just always dipping all the time. But now it's like, yeah, if I'm hungry, it's like, yeah, I could keep going for a few more hours without eating someone's leg. But yeah, I'm much the same. I don't believe in absolutes in terms of like a bracket of eating. I think a lot of people that I speak to that are trying to build muscle, lose fat, they say, okay, I'm on this fasting protocol. Okay, you gaining muscle? No. Do you want to gain muscle? Yes. So you're telling your body to not do something, going against its own wishes and will, to stop yourself from eating, to wait until a number on an arbitrary.
Your body's got no idea what that number is, right?
Yeah, I mean, our bodies don't have this timer in them. It's an ongoing process. So this goes up, this goes down. Da, 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 da. Where do you land in terms of, okay, I'm really hungry and it's probably a good idea for me to eat now. My digestion capacity's upregulated, your body's clear, it's ready to go. So I'm completely on board with that. I'm not strict with,
right? Hormones and all of that. Because if you want to build the muscle, then your hormones need to be at the right position. You've got your ghrelin, your leptin as well, that your hunger and starvation, all those sorts of things that you're disrupting and you don't realize. But that's for another day.
Yeah, we can go into that another time, I think. I want to sort of recap what we've spoke about so far. It's also been around what is biohacking, the peptides, bioregulators, your personal sort of diet, which is pretty loose, which is what it should be for most people. You're not a competitive bodybuilder, but you still have your goals, like you said at the start. Sometimes you want to lose a bit of fat. But okay, add in this little thing to help me along the way, and maybe be a bit more rigid with how much butter you put on your steak or whatever. That's literally it. So
yeah, Exactly. Don't be afraid of fat. I think that that's the sad thing. And women specifically are so afraid of fat, and they think it's going to give them extra hips. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, what idea I always give to some people is, I have a lot of people sometimes that will diet themselves into the ground. They'll come to me and I say, let's get your metabolism back to normal, because it's not normal that you're eating 300 grams of meat a day and a coffee. That's not much food for anyone.
Yeah.
So let's get you back to baseline, heal your body, get yourself feeling good, sleeping good, recovering well. Then, okay, we'll add in, say, 20 grams of fat per day, or whatever it is. So you might be going from 70 to 90 grams. Then I'll find, okay, that's a lot of fat. I'm going to gain a pound of fat this week. And I say, well, you've eaten an extra 140 grams of fat this week. And that's about, I don't know, just over a quarter of a pound, or something, maybe a third of a pound. But the scales have gone up a pound. Do you think you've actually gained that much fat, or is just the food volume has increased? Your salt intake has increased because you're adding more butter, for example. I don't know. Maybe that's giving you better hydration. So, I look at the mass balance model for this sort of thing. And obviously it sort of explains a lot better data in terms of what we can interpret than calories in, calories out. Have you found the same? Do you think there's a big lever to be had with the carnivore diet for body composition?
Definitely. Well, for starters, you're getting the right nutrients, aren't you? You're getting your right nutrients, but it can vary from person to person, because not everybody sticks to it in the way that probably you and I do. But I genuinely feel that done right, you can really thrive.
Yeah. So how would you start someone on a carnivore diet then?
Slowly.
Slowly, not too much change.
Yeah, getting that carb out first is really important, and it's explaining to people what a carb actually looks like and in what forms. And I think because so many people are surprised when they realize that starchy vegetables actually are carbohydrates, which then turn to sugar, which then just cause issues. So it's one of those things that it's an education the whole time. Educate.
Yeah, we can only learn more. None of us know absolutely everything. So that's why you have two people with different experiences, completely different degrees, pretty much, talking about their own takeaways. And we've probably found quite a lot of interplay between what we've used with ourselves and clients. Both of the same mind, the carnivore diet with the right approach, the right sort of entrance point. But yeah, that's basically it for today, guys. But what I want to do is just obviously offer you the lovely opportunity to explain who you are, where you're from, and also any services you offer, coaching, products, affiliation, or anything you mentioned in this talk today.
Great. Well, my name's Helen. Say again.
Still.
I class myself as an integrated root cause metabolic health practitioner, more so because that gives people an idea of what I do rather than functional practitioner, because what's that? And I don't align myself with anyone specifically. I work internationally with clients one-to-one. My favorite to work with, probably more so, is people with really specific disease or cancer. They're the kind of things I really like to work with. However, I'm happy to help people on peptides and bioregulators and all that side of stuff, because that's really exciting too.
Absolutely, yeah, that's brilliant. What I'll do is I'll link your social profiles and website, all things like that below. Easily be found directly under the video in the description. But thanks very much for your time. Appreciate you coming on.
Build muscle and lose fat on the carnivore diet.